Hello, my name is Jeana Myers, and I will be presenting the third module in the Ready Garden Grow gardening series. And today it will be laying out your garden. The Master Gardener volunteers of Wake County strive to provide gardeners with unbiased and research-based information on all your garden, lawn, and landscape questions. We'd love for you to follow the Master Gardeners on their Facebook page for all kinds of local gardening news. And if you do have gardening questions, please contact our Master Gardener volunteers at 919-250-1084, or you can email them at mgardener@wakegov.com. As I said, this is the third class in this series where we're covering everything from planting your garden to growing vegetables in containers. Today we'll be laying out your garden. So what we will cover today in the next few minutes is the information you need to plan your garden layout, the importance of crop rotation and how it influences that garden layout, and how to create and document your layout so that you have some records. In the past class modules, there's been some talk about the different pieces of information that we have on our plants. This will be, the varieties, the families that they're in, how much planting space they need, their footprint, and planting dates. So all this information is in the North Carolina Common Crop Chart, which is in the Ready Garden Grow Handbook, of which you have a link, and we will show you that again at the end. So this example is for a warm season crop layout, and will be the information that will be available in the Ready Garden Grow manual. So note the plant family and the footprint are the key features that we want to use for our garden layout. So the planting map is just a diagram of where you want to plant each vegetable. Some people will just go out and plant wherever they have space, but the advantage of actually laying this out is that you will have a written record of what you planted last year. We do not always remember. And we also have 3 seasons. So by the time you've planted vegetables in maybe a couple of seasons, you're going to really forget what was there last year. We'll talk about the importance of keeping track of that, but for now, the reason we do this is for our records. So in talking about crop rotation, you can see on this diagram that different vegetables are listed there, as well as their plant family. The spacings are also there, but the important part that we want to look at right now is why we need to do crop rotations. So the main thing is that plants in the same family, they do have the same nutritional requirements, but more importantly for this situation is that they're more susceptible to similar diseases and pests. And some of those can be built up in the soil or on the mulches around the soil, in the roots of the plants. So they will become more concentrated in those areas where those plants are during a given growing season. So with crop rotation, it's just a good cultural practice. Plants will extract different nutrients, so you're taking advantage of whatever nutrients you have in the soil, but they also will not be quite as vulnerable to the same pests and diseases. And really, ideally, we would like to have a crop rotation where you don't plant the same plants in the same family, but in the same soil, but every 3 to 4 years. That would be ideal. and even longer, of course, if we could. But 3 to 4 years is what we would love to shoot for. It can be very, very difficult in a small garden. I mean, I try to max out my garden each season, so trying to rotate 3 or 4 years is pretty impossible. But we're going to do the best we can and consider options for the layout. Here's a couple of examples. So in the chart there, where it has 4 plots and 4 families, that might be a situation where you actually have 4 separate beds or 4 separate plots laid out in your garden. And so you could just rotate through those, and in year 1 you would plant a certain group of certain family of crops in that plot, year 2, year 3, so forth. The other way you might look at it, if you've got a smaller area, more diverse crop plantings, is to do something like one of the 2 that's on the right. The top one is a warm season diagram, and the bottom one is a cool season diagram. And so within each one of those beds, there are different plant families represented. And the idea is that you would simply move them down the bed in the next year, so that you're not moving very far, but any change of soil planting is better than none. So you might have squash in one area, but in the next year you will rotate around and put tomatoes in there, which are in a different family. And so here's a planting map that we can take a look at and kind of practice how we might actually do this. So we'll go through this step by step. And on the left is kind of an abbreviated version of the planting plan that we're going to practice with a footprint of how much space each plant needs, and then the general height it might get, and plant families. Now, I do want to mention the plant families that we have been using are kind of the common names, like nightshades for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplants. Nightshades are part of the Solanaceae family. Well, that's the same name for it, but it's just a common name. The squash family and squash and cucumbers are in that, and watermelons. Those are the curcubits, or the curcubit family. Beans and peas are legumes. Let's see, onions are onions and garlic are in the allium family. So just be aware that when you're looking these up, you may see one or the other of the ways that those are represented, either by their Latin name or their common family name. So in this case, we're using the common name for tomatoes, peppers, and eggplant are in the nightshade family. All right, so first we're gonna draw a tentative or a make-believe bed, 4 by 8 foot bed on this graph paper. And in this example, each of the squares on the grid represents 1 square foot. So first, we'll start with the vegetables in the nightshade family, tomatoes and peppers, and I'm not growing eggplant right here. So I'm going to measure out 2 feet by 2 feet for each tomato. And so you see I have 3 tomatoes there. And then below the 1 tomato, there are 4 pepper plants, because they are designated to have a footprint of about 12 inches square. So you can see we've already got that laid out, 2 feet by 2 feet, 2 feet by 2 feet. So those will be the beginning of our plan. Then we'll add in the squash family, which includes zucchini and cucumbers. And we're kind of clumping these together, you can see, so that we're having the families in a close proximity, so that when we rotate, we'll actually be rotating the family. Zucchini needs a 24-inch footprint, and cucumbers 12-inch. And I did want to mention that one of the things that I see most often in new gardens or with new gardeners is they don't know how much of a footprint a plant will take, a vegetable will take. So it's really good to look at these estimations and take note of them, because most of the time in new gardens, there's a whole lot of empty space. You know, most people don't err on the side of planting too close. It's more giving them way more space. And if you really don't have a whole lot of space, it's nice to make it more intensive. Okay, so then next we'll look at the putting in some legumes. So this will be bush beans. This is our warm season. So we have tomatoes, zucchini, squash, squash and cucumbers and beans. So you can get 4 plants, a plant about a square foot. So you can get a number of plants squeezed in there. And, you know, again, you don't have to stress over the details too much. These are guides. So if you decide to push it a little bit, it's okay. But these are good guides to creating your planting plan. And then finally, we can fill in with herbs. And these can be in some different families, but we don't worry quite as much about them because we tend to, there's more diversity there. And we can put some marigolds in as well. So we may also note on our planting map that we need to stake and trellis our tomatoes, and that we're going to do some succession planting with our beans, because that will extend the season. Their production time is not that long, so it's good to do plantings maybe every couple weeks, you know, 2 or 3 of them during the summer, and that way you'll have beans for a longer period. Same way with squash too, because they'll produce for a certain amount of time and then be done. So I do want to mention that there are a lot of tools on the internet that can help with this garden planting. If you have a good-sized garden, it can be really helpful because it's going to keep all your records online year after year. You can put in what you planted, when you planted it, what your harvests were. I mean, you can get when you fertilized. You can get as detailed as you like. Some of these are free and some are not. But you know, very small garden, if you just have a couple beds, it's easy enough to do this on a sheet of paper. It'll take you a few minutes to do it. But if you do have a larger garden, some of the online tools can be very helpful. So in this class, we discussed what information you need to plan your garden layout, and that's the plant family, as well as the footprint of the particular crop, what crop rotation is and how it influences your garden layout. And we always want to do crop rotation no matter how simple it is or how small your garden is, because that will help in reducing plant and insect problems. Disease and insect problems. And then how to create and document your layout. And you can either do that on paper or choose one of the apps from online, either free or for cost. So that was laying out your garden, and the next segment will be preparing your garden for planting. If you have questions, remember to contact the Master Gardener hotline at 919-250-1084 or email the Master Gardeners at mgardner@wakegov.com. And the Ready Garden Grow handbook that we are drawing from for these classes is available online on our Wake County Cooperative Extension website. And that material was taken from our Extension Gardener Handbook, which is a comprehensive gardening text available free online or for purchase in hard copy. And you can just Google Extension Gardener Handbook and it will take you right there. Thank you for participating, and we'll see you in the garden.